your natural glutathione production really starts slowing down in your 20s. After age 40, you've pretty much lost 20% capacity to produce your own glutathione, which doesn't sound like that big of a handicap, but that's if everything in your life is perfect. And in 2026, we're exposed to so many more environmental toxins, pesticides, air pollution. I mean, there's air quality warnings in Arizona every day, I feel like, when I check the weather. You cannot separate performance from health. Eventually, the bill comes due. Most people are trying to outwork biology. High performers can do it for a while. Eventually, everyone has to pay this bill. Today, we're going to talk about what we're doing differently and how we're adapting as time goes on. Jesse Kessler, how are we doing today?
Great, man. Except there's a bunch of snow and ice out here.
I cannot say the same. Arizona's sunny skies. You don't have to shovel sunshine.
I've never heard that quote. I like it.
Yeah, somebody said it to me when I moved here, and it stuck with me. Now I say it every year because I haven't shoveled an ounce of snow in over 6 years. What do you think being a high performer actually requires today that it didn't 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago? Because we're in the social media era now, it's continuing to expand. We're in the AI era now. So there's a lot of different things that are in play that may not have been in play, a decade ago. So what do you think it requires today?
I think what I'm learning is having to do everything yourself, working as hard as you can, busting your butt, doing all the little jobs. You when you're a high performer, you tend to do the higher type of jobs, if you will, and kind of hire out for other things. You want to do the stuff that you're passionate about that really gets you going. So for instance, like right now, I found that I had to get completely out of sales, right? I had to get out of patient care. And also in other parts of our lives, like we hired a chef to prepare our meals. So I'm not using a lot of my time coming in and making food. It's all prepared for me and my family, and it's 10 times better than anything I can make. So definitely well worth it. Um, we hired a cleaning lady to come in as well. So that uh, gets us back a lot of our time. So we can use it towards other projects, other things like work or our family. And I think in the past, everybody was just like, you had to put your nose to the ground and work as hard as possible. And now with even AI, you can find other things to put in place, doing the things that you don't want to do.
Yeah. No, I'm big on the outsourcing tasks. I have a housekeeper as well that comes. And that's just a stress relief because the last thing you want to do is put in a 12-hour workday and then have to clean your place, or in your case, cook your food. It's called buying back your time. I think with all these advancements too, there's a lot more cognitive stress load. There's a lot more decision making involved. So to give an example, like, I can hop on a call, put together an invoice to send a patient that comes to the clinic, boom, hop on another call, put together like it's just constant decision making all day because of how fast technology has allowed us to work. That's cool because it allows us to get more done in shorter periods of time, but I think there's a lot of stress load that then comes with that, to where you're always thinking about, what do I have to do next? What did I not get done? So you're going to need to be organized. You're going to need to have everything in a row. And that's what I'm finding every day. I have to evolve my organization, making sure I'm staying on top of things, because it's easy to forget. It's easy to get behind if you don't take notes for yourself. So I think that's something new that probably wasn't in play definitely a decade ago. I mean, a decade ago, Instagram was barely anything. You just posted pictures, and now it's a whole business platform. I mean, the introduction of AI has completely changed the game, in my opinion. So I think high performance requires the ability to manage a lot of stress, and the way you offload that stress is by using some of the tools we've mentioned to buy back your time, but also you got to be cool under pressure. You got to be able to make decisions on the go, on the fly, and pivot your day as needed. I know, some kind of an inside joke between us is when we're having a day, we just say we're in the tornado, and that's just how it goes, man. Like you got calls coming left and right, you got people emailing you, people texting you, the Slack's going off, so it's a lot of fun. But I think you have to be able to manage all that and not let that overwhelm you.
Yeah, I think it takes a special type of mindset as well, something we're not taught and we had to learn, right? So, right now, running multiple businesses, I am so thankful that I got out of the type of day to day stuff. I'm still absolutely in the day to day with everybody too, doing the same thing. But you're spot on with having to learn how to deal with the stress, whether it is stress or not. Your body could be treating like stress, but your mind's not at the same time. So you have to connect those two as well and make sure that your body is okay as well as your brain. There's a lot of stuff coming to us all day long, and I think high performers are able to, like you said, um, give those things off and delegate to other people to perform the tasks that you again are passionate about. And high performers do what they're good at, right? They don't have to do everyone else's job. uh, Other people doing other jobs that you don't like to do could be the thing that they love to do most. So I think that is one of the biggest differences from about a decade ago.
Yeah. And I think with all the things we're talking about, the increased cognitive stress load, the importance of quick decision making on the fly, and the ability to pivot your decision making throughout your day, depending on what your day throws at you, it just makes the need for sleep and quality sleep that much more important. I know that's a topic you and I talk about a lot privately is, one bad night of sleep can probably affect you for 2 to 3 days following. So the sleep disruptions that can come from all of this increased stress load that is put on a high performer and someone who does want to pursue greatness, you got to take care of your sleep. And that comes down to your sleep hygiene. That can come down to your supplementation, peptides, whatever the case is. But you have to treat sleep like a priority in order to manage all the stress that's coming from the pursuit of greatness.
Yeah, it's even more difficult when you're a parent because a lot of parents don't get full night's sleep. When you do, it's almost a miracle. Uh, but I think just getting past that as well, trying to figure out the sleep schedule, communicating with your significant other on, hey, you take the kid then, or if you co-sleep too, like our daughter comes in our bed, um, we just make sure that one person is sleeping, one person is going to be able to perform the next day. Really, so it's a trade back and forth. It's kind of crazy that no, I don't feel like anybody really talks about, but I think that there's a lot of ways that we can help individuals as parents too to get deeper sleep and quality sleep for the small amount of hours that they do.
Yeah, I think that's a good segue into us talking about what we're doing now to enhance our performance. What's our day to day like? So I know we both train, we both eat clean and eat on a regimented schedule. So, what are some things you're doing personally that have helped you balance the stress load? Or I shouldn't say balance, find harmony with the stress load, allow yourself to get good sleep, but still pursue things you want to pursue outside of business?
Right now, I would like to get it switched over, but what works best for me is hitting the gym first thing in the morning. I would like it to be more in the afternoon to cut up my day, but I've grown so accustomed to getting it done first thing in the morning and then attacking the workday for the rest of the day. That's one thing. Some other things that I'm using, I would say, um, some top peptides I use for sleep right now are um, tesamorelin with ipamorelin. So you have your growth hormone releasing peptides that help with REM sleep. Uh, we have been using DSIP and are huge on it right now. We aren't able to get our hands on it, but I know that we will again soon. And just taking some good precautionary medications as well, like thymosin alpha one and glutathione have been really big for me too. But it all comes down to communication with us as well. So trying to get to sleep at a decent time. I'm terrible with having a screen before bed. I can preach it all day long to not do that, but I still do it. Um, I know that you don't, but I'm trying to get away from that. Another thing I prioritize is laying everything out in the morning. So as soon as I get up, I have to walk in front of my dresser, and that's where I have all my supplements. So I just throw those back, drink, and then go get dressed. So that's easy. And then have a really easy breakfast as well because you want to get going. I like to read in the morning if I can. I know that my brain functions best in the morning. So that's again why I'm trying to figure out my schedule to kind of change that around. But everybody's different. Everybody has to figure out what works best for them. And I know my brain functions best in the morning. A lot of people's brains function best at night. So again, just kind of fine tune and tune into your body.
Yeah. And just being open and ready to pivot as needed. Like you said, what you're doing right now is what you're doing, but it may change in a month, it may change in 2 months, and then you'll pivot and adapt.
Yeah.
I do a
What do
lot of
you
the
do at night? Tell
same.
everybody what you do.
What I do, it's kind of different day to day, depending if it's a weekend or a weekday, but I tend to similar schedule as you. I get up, supplements are already laid out, toss them down the hatch. Um, there's a I make sure I slam a liter of water. That's very important for me right out of bed. Um, and then from there, I try to read or do some education. Um, Preferably not on a screen right away, but sometimes that's just where it goes. But I try not to have any direct communication with anybody or get into my messages. If somebody messaged me from the East Coast or I got clients coming at me with updates, I try not to tackle those right away because I like to do some me things and some education before I get into that stuff. At night, I am not perfect with the whole no screens before bed. I try to be, but it's really easy to look at your phone and be on your phone and get in a YouTube rabbit hole. So I do try to 30 minutes before. I dim all the lights 3 hours before bedtime, candles, lamps, just trying to rev myself down to get into a parasympathetic state so I can sleep. My training time right now is 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Um, so I usually wrap everything up 3:45. I train 4 days a week, usually at the gym a couple hours, back home, and I can do a couple more hours of work, answer any leftover messages. But again, it's always pivoting. I'd like to change the training time probably in a couple months, but we'll just see where it goes. I'm able to adapt. I mean, the gym I train at is 8 minutes away, so it's not like it's a huge commute. Um, but the morning is very key for me. I wake up, make the bed, brush the teeth, slam the supplements, and then from there it's off and running. My meals are very important, so I have 5 meals a day. I've found that I need to block out calendar time in order to get those in and not get behind, because the way the day works, you can have one person message you, a random call pop up, and then the next thing you know, you haven't eaten in 5 hours and you're trying to play catch up. So setting those meal times in the calendar at least gives me an idea of when and where I'm going to eat. And then I'm not playing catch up at the end of the day, delaying my bedtime.
I understand that absolutely. Um, I personally had a lot of issues working right up to bedtime as well, but now I've trained myself and my brain to be with my family during that time now instead. Or if the kids go to sleep, I can get a tiny bit of work done. Elise gets a ton of work done at night because that's the only time she has available that's free. But some hacks that I've actually used for sleep now, um, I used those nasal strips to just open up your nose a little bit. I've kind of got away from that, but that's helped a lot. I have a mouth guard that's fitted for my teeth. So my mouth kind of stays open, but I don't grind my teeth now. And my jaw has completely changed shape and shifted. So that's been really weird. And also a noisemaker. People with families and kids all over the place, their families tend to make a lot of noise all over the house. That kind of drowns it out and get used to white noise too. So there's a couple hacks. Sometimes I use eye mask to black everything out because we don't have the darkest curtains in our room, and I try and do that too. But it's a constant learn and pivot, just like you said.
Yeah. I also do the nasal strips, and I started mouth taping a few months ago, and that's actually I've noticed huge improvements in my sleep. So that's nasal strip, mouth tape. I go through periods where I sleep with the Crest white strips in. One of my friends is a dentist, and she just said, just wear them to bed. So they're in all night on the teeth. And then I do have an eye mask that I'm waiting for. It's a digital one that actually has Bluetooth and it has little white noise that it can play. And then it has an alarm built in. So you can set the time you want to wake up. And the instead of noise, it actually wakes you up with a light that will slowly brighten about 15 minutes before your alarm. So if your alarm was set for like 5 a.m., at 4:45, it's going to naturally start lighting up. So you're waking up more to light instead of, an alarm sound. And I believe it's going to naturally bring you out of sleep state. And that's probably going to be better for circadian rhythm. So I'm excited to try that. But yeah, it's a whole thing. I mean, going to sleep for me used to be like, on a screen until I was absolutely drained and then falling asleep with my phone in my hand and then, waking up and just starting the day without any sort of like positive sleep that was built up. So, um, again, as you get older, the need to recover becomes more and more and more needed, but also beneficial if you want to be a high performer. Um, I think you got to learn to pivot with age. I know in my 20s, I could sleep 3 hours and be fine. And now if I slept 3 hours, I'm feeling it the next day. I'm groggy. I might be more irritable. I'm not as sharp cognitively. Um, so discipline as you get older and as you have bigger goals becomes more about protecting your performance than enhancing your performance, which is something that I've really thought about a lot more lately is the discipline that we're talking about. For me, I look at it as a way to give me more freedom rather than to use it as a flex, like, oh, I'm so disciplined. I work 12 hours a day. I train, I eat, I do all like I'm chasing discipline as a means to give myself a quality life and give myself longevity. I don't want to be disciplined if it means I'm going to burn out and, set myself up for health issues when I'm 52 because I went hard in my 30s and 40s and didn't protect my space and, create boundaries for myself. Like I would love if I could work all the way up until bed and it worked and I got good sleep, but it doesn't. So I've had to adapt similar to you.
um, have you checked to see if that eye mask is safe since you're wearing Bluetooth on your face for like 8 to 10 hours?
I believe they've done I'm part of like a beta testing group. It's one of the first masks like that. I ordered it like a year ago. And I will get it in probably a few months, so I'll let you know. But they've done a ton of testing on it, making it travel safe, checking all the plastics and all of that stuff. There's a lot of research going into it. Um, but yeah,
Huh.
it's a good point. I kind of bought it on a whim, and I didn't really realize what I was buying. But they sent me update emails every month with, where they're at with the research and development of it. And then they're going to be sending it out here in April or May. So I'm mostly excited because it's a way to track my sleep scores, my, how much deep sleep I'm getting, HRV, resting heart rate, all that stuff. Because I don't like the other wearables. I don't like wearing rings. And I don't want to wear a Whoop strap or any of the watches. I'm just not into wearables. But I've always wanted to track my sleep to see how different supplements work for me. Some things I use are magnesium. That's a big one for me to relax at night. Leviathan Nutrition has a product called Visure that has a bunch of adaptogens in it, ashwagandha, rhodiola rosea, bunch of other ones that I can't think of right now. But that helps me kind of unplug and get out of the digital stimulation mode that I'm in all day. And then again, just the sleep hygiene that we've talked about.
Yeah. Okay. Um, So you did mention circadian rhythm, and I know that that's thrown around all the time. Not a lot of people know about that, but do you know anything about epitalon or epitalon?
I know it's referred to as the fountain of youth peptide in a way, and that it's beneficial for longevity. I haven't used it though.
So I've done a couple tests on myself. I have to go get it one done again, but it's kind of stupid. I paid $400 for one sheet of paper that shows here's where you're at on a graph to check out your biological age. Because what it does is it lengthens the telomeres on your DNA. So it's like the end caps of your DNA, which is supposed to make you live longer, apparently. So I have to go back and do it. But these tests are just so freaking expensive. So if anybody knows how to find a cheaper one, let me know. But it's just another blood test. I found that it helps with sleep as well. But I think that there's a lot, you'll see a lot more in the next couple of years about this peptide because there's a lot coming out when it comes to anti-aging purposes.
Yeah. And that topic as a whole is such a rabbit hole that I never was interested in. Honestly, I just didn't have the maturity for it. But now, at 34, I'm much more interested in protecting my cognition, protecting my daily function, protecting my energy levels. Um, so I am interested in that topic as a whole. I know I'll experiment with epitalon at some point. Um, but my favorite thing for anti-aging is glutathione. It's an antioxidant that is the second most abundant molecule in the body next to water. It's a powerhouse. It excites me because your natural glutathione production really starts slowing down in your 20s. After age 40, you've pretty much lost 20% capacity to produce your own glutathione, which doesn't sound like that big of a handicap, but that's if everything in your life is perfect. And in 2026, we're exposed to so many more environmental toxins, pesticides, air pollution. I mean, there's air quality warnings in Arizona every day, I feel like, when I check the weather. So that 80% that's available to you ends up being pulled from. And then if you are someone who trains hard, like I do, and you do, that takes away your reserves as well. So I've noticed huge benefits in my overall energy using glutathione every week. I would say the only con and the reason people don't want to use it is because the most bioavailable form is through an injection. But honestly, if I got to pin myself a few times a week to have more energy, to have better cognition, and to have a more vibrant, luminous glow to my skin, I'm going to do it because I can correlate the benefits of it right away. If I take an injection of glutathione, the next day I wake up and I'm like, let's go, let's attack life.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. That's why a lot of the coaches that we work with love it. That's why they make it in such large vials because you have to inject it so much. Now, you don't have to go by what everybody else says, what other physicians out there say, and you have to do it with a huge intramuscular syringe. You can use an insulin syringe and go like right into your quad or your shoulder as well. It works just fine. We find that with a lot of people as well. Now, a lot of people do know glutathione, a lot of people don't, but some people that do know it might have heard of it because it helps to get rid of hangovers. So in
Hmm.
my 20s, I used to use it all the time. I don't need it anymore for that purpose, but I still use it. And I completely agree with you on those benefits.
Yeah, I mean, it helps fight disease, which obviously as we age, we're more susceptible to chronic inflammation and diseases. If you're sick, like I've been fighting off a little bit of an upper respiratory infection, took glutathione 2 nights ago, and I'm 10 times better than I was. Didn't have to use any Mucinex, antibiotics, anything like that. So it is a powerhouse. I can't say enough good things about glutathione. That is one that I do recommend to everyone, no matter what your occupation, no matter what your personal life is like, because like I said, the things we are exposed to now with all the digital stress, the chronic cognitive overload, the political atmosphere, we're under stress all the time, whether we realize it or not. So why wouldn't you use something that is going to make you more beneficial and more resilient to stress?
With that being said, what would you say are the top three peptides or medications for high performers? Because I think with everything you just said, that would be up there at the top, right?
Oh yeah, that's in my pound for pound top. That's on my Mount Rushmore for sure. My glutathione. Um, I guess it would be context dependent to the individual, but I put glutathione up there. For me, I'm big on the cognition. So if you're a high performer who's in a lot of calls, who potentially travels a lot, who has days that you might consider tornadoes like we do, I'm a big dihexa fan.
Knew it.
I feel like I can see my next move before I do it when I take dihexa. Um, number three, if I had to rank them, I would throw BPC 157 in there just because anti-inflammatory accelerates recovery. I notice a increase in my mood. I'm more positive when I have that in because I think it's lowering inflammation, helps me recover from training. Anytime I've had any sort of tendonitis or I'm recovering from maybe a bigger injury, the recovery time is slashed in half. I mean, I had a small tear in my bicep last year, and I felt the tear happen, and I knew I tore it because I had that Velcro feeling. And 3 days later, I was training biceps again because I used BPC for 3 days in a row. So it works. It I know it's dubbed the Wolverine peptide, or that and TB 500 combined, or the Wolverine stack. Like it does work.
Okay. I like that. I would, for me, throw on your Mount Rushmore a possibility. This is going to be crazy of Retatrutide, though, because high
Yep.
performers love it. High performers sometimes can't don't eat all the time, but we want you to eat, right? You should eat all the time. Sometimes they're just working so much that that gets by them. Now, one of the best parts about Retta is that I found you can still eat the same amount of food that you're supposed to. It's just that you just don't have the urge to, right? So if you measure your food and it's sitting there, you set your alarm on your phone, it's time to eat, and then you eat that same amount of food. Now, also, a lot of people find that it gives them a ton of energy, and that's what high performers are looking for as well. And then the really big dark horse on there that I would say 90% of people would probably disagree with me, but I'm just such a huge proponent of it. Thymosin alpha 1, because if you're any type of sick, it reverses it. If you have any, it helps with your heart health, probably more than any other peptide, in my opinion. And then I've seen it reverse allergies. So in any way, shape, or form, you want to be well, right? And nobody really thinks about that. I feel thymosin alpha 1 should be in every doctor's office, but we probably will never see that.
Right. Yeah, I like both. Big fan of the Retta. That's one of my main talking points every day right now with people, especially when it comes to when I can see a set of labs. If I see if someone has a below average lipid panel, there's someone who's noticing more fat gain around the midsection and the belly. Insulin sensitivity might be poor on this individual, as well as their CRP, elevated levels of inflammation in the body. That's my big driver to recommending Retta because of its metabolic signaling attributes. It's kind of been dubbed the weight loss, fat loss peptide, which it will do, but how it lets those things happen is through, improving your lipid panel, improving your insulin sensitivity, and lowering your overall inflammation, which is going to improve the metabolic signaling in the body. And as you mentioned, my own experience with it, not really thinking about food, not really hungry until I sit down to a meal and I'm right in front of it and I'm like, okay, I'm hungry, let's eat. And then as soon as the meal's gone, there's no, man, I wish I had more. It's almost like built-in portion control. So if you do have a meal plan you follow or a structure that you follow, for me, it didn't zap my appetite. It just didn't. I wasn't thinking about food and I wasn't bothered by food outside of when I was sitting down to a meal. I had hunger signals, almost like a switch.
Very well said.
Signal to eat is turned on. When I'm not about to eat a meal, I have no hunger present or thoughts of food. And, I could walk by a five-star steakhouse, smell everything, and it smells really good. And I'm not like, oh, I'm hungry. Like, it's a pretty cool tool.
Yeah, it's like that's called food noise. It gets rid of the food noise, right? I mean, it's not scientifically called that, but that's what we say. It's like if you
Yeah.
see a bag of chips and you're like, "Oh, usually I would love that bag of chips. I want to open that and eat that now." But no, that is a dumb decision. I will not make that dumb decision and eat those chips because that is not good for me. And you could have those rational decision, those conversations with yourself too, which is really cool. Thank you, Reddit True
Yeah.
Tide.
Yeah. It's like a built-in counselor.
Yeah.
Um, so in our day to day, we talk to many people, men and women alike, who are high performers and they feel that they're doing everything right. They're exercising in some way, they're making the best nutrition choices they can make. They do make effort towards their sleep. They're doing a lot of things right, but they still feel off. What would you say are some prime reasons that we see that?
They still feel off. I always, every time, go back to the hormones. Like,
Boom.
yeah, see, start with the blood work, like we talk about, see where you're low at, because almost every person is low in some type of way. And if you're going to try and eat like a herb or something to make it get back up, it's most likely not going to do that much for you. Look, there's some wheatgrass. It's going to raise my testosterone. I don't think it's going to do anything that dramatically for you. So talk to somebody, make sure, do your research, and it's like we talked about last episode. Like it's not only testosterone. There's so many other things that could be going on in your body. And also, I think one thing we never really talk about is our mitochondrial function. So that's one thing to kind of look at as well, or try to enhance with peptides too.
Yeah, you nailed it with the hormones. That's the first place I look because, a lot of these people that we speak to as well, they are putting in a lot of hours a week working, and some of them may be people who travel frequently for work, or maybe they're mixing pleasure trips and work trips. That's a lot of stress on the nervous system when you're changing time zones. If you're on screens all day, we talked about the cognitive stress overload that we are faced with today. The nervous system just gets burnt out. And then, I do think a lot of people, whether they realize it or not, they're actually under eating, and they're probably doing too much as far as training goes, and they're not recovering. I know, you personally recently, I started helping you with your training and your nutrition. And first thing I did is bump your food all the way up. And at first, there was a lot of, wow, this is a lot of food. But I think now you're seeing the performance benefits and it's become habit to get that amount of food in. So you want to talk on that a little bit? Because you sent me what you were doing food wise, and right away I was like, my boy, you're not eating enough.
Well, yeah, I'd love to talk about that because um, as a competitive bodybuilder in the past, nothing to write home about, but I've done it a few times, right? And I know what it's like to keep the food in and keep doing that to help your metabolism and help your energy. But I just got so busy. That's what I'm blaming it on, right? I blame it on. I can just place blame all over the place. Tommy's like, yeah, here he is again blaming something, but I was just busy and I forget to eat just like everybody else. And now having somebody hold me accountable is one of the keys to that as well. But literally, we started 2.5 weeks ago, I think. I'm almost up 10 pounds. This morning, I was up like 9.4 pounds from when we first started. And that was just increasing my food again. And again, it it helps so much more to have somebody else making the food for you because they can do it so much better and buys back your time as well. If you break that into like increments and hourly of what you were to pay that person, the return is ridiculous because a lot of people all over the place are eating out, getting Uber Eats, whatever delivered, not eating enough. So the return is there. I think that it's extremely underutilized for everybody.
Yeah. I mean, if you're someone who's young or listening to this, or someone like, and they're looking for a side hustle or something to go into, offering that service. I've been looking for a personal chef or someone of that particular vocation for myself because I realized that I'm pretty freaking regimented with my food and my cooking and all of that. But yeah, like you said, the time does add up when you talk about if you do have to go to the grocery store to get your food, if you do have to cook your food, if you do have to do the dishes, all those minutes that you're expending towards those tasks, they add up and take away from your day. And if that's what it is, it's buying back the time. The cost that you're going to spend gives you more time and it may reduce stress that you're under. So anything that you do, whether it's a housekeeper, a nanny in your case, or a chef or a meal prep company, these are all tools that are available to us now to buy back our time and lower the amount of stress that we're under day to day to day to day. It's not a flex anymore to talk about how hard you grind and to talk about how busy you are, because again, if longevity is the goal, you're going to hit your breaking point sooner or later, or you're going to be at your breaking point and you're just going to grind through it. And then you're trying to flex about suffering. And again, that will show up on your blood work at some point. And we see it day to day. I talk to people who are brilliant and very, very successful. And I look at their labs and I'm like, hey, if this pace continues, you're going to have some long-term issues with illnesses that are going to start popping up if we don't make change now. So I'm a big fan of buying back your time, big fan of looking at the hormones and then addressing the hormones. And like you said, like maybe some supplements will move the needle a little bit, but at a certain point and at a certain age, replacing the hormones that are deficient or no longer producing for themselves is the move. And I know there's still some resistance amongst that, and we talk to people daily on it. I think it's becoming more and more accepted that that's an option to do. But case in point, I just had a guy, 37 years old, go on TRT, and all he's doing every week is telling me all the wins he's experiencing. Joints don't hurt as much, better outlook on life, positive mood. He's able to, he had to shovel snow in that recent snowstorm that hit. 3 hours of shoveling snow, and he said he could keep going. Like he wanted to keep going because he has that youthful approach to life that had been missing for him. So I think people still look at hormone replacement and kind of think of it as steroid use, like a body. It's not the same thing. You're replacing the hormones that are not producing anymore for whatever reason. But it's a huge tool that should be looked into, and you can't look into it unless you're getting the blood work and the hormone panels.
I think you had a lot of good points there. Hormone replacement therapy is becoming more normalized. 10, 12 years ago when I was doing this, man, I was getting yelled at by everybody and
You're
nobody
a
knew what it was.
snake oil
Yeah,
salesman.
guys were trying to hide it from their wives, and no majority of guys wouldn't even inject themselves because they were scared of it. And now I love how normalized it's becoming, but people just need to be educated, right? Back then, physicians were injecting somebody once every 2 weeks, and people would be like, I feel good for a couple of days and then I just feel terrible. Testosterone didn't work for me. No, it's because you didn't have a constant flow of testosterone inside you at all times. But I wanted to also touch base on something else that you said earlier. What was that? It was, again, buying back your time and how it's not a flex anymore. Because everything we're talking about, normally a lot of people would be like, oh, they're just trying to brag. No, nothing about this is bragging. It's helping you, it's helping others, because you have to realize how much your time is worth, right? You could go and see how much money you make a year and then divide that down hourly, right? Like we talked about, and then see how much each hour is worth. For instance, after this after this podcast here, I'm going home. I have somebody coming to my house to cut my hair in a mobile van. And I believe it's like 75 bucks. So I looked at it like this. Okay, you have to get ready usually. It takes you like 10, 15 minutes to get ready, get out the door, drive to get your hair cut, sit and wait usually. And then what, it's like 50 bucks to get that done. Or I could have somebody come to my house where I could just walk outside and get in their van. Creepy, not. But um, it would be like 75 bucks for me. I'd probably throw them 100 bucks. Okay, that's 50 extra dollars to come to my house and save me all this time as well. That's how I look at everything now. And the big goal for this as well, in the long run, I want to have time with my family. I want to buy a big house out west, get the heck out of Michigan, right? Maybe in the middle of Idaho, right? No neighbors. And I want to be
Let's
able to
go.
spend that time with my kids and my wife. And that's my main goal. So, whatever I can do to continuously buy back my time and put that into being productive, I think will speed up everything because business loves speed.
Yeah. Speed kills, man. And that's the name of the game in 2026 is speed. If you're not working at a certain rate, you're going to get left behind because there are people that are working at that speed and they're going to be available to take the business that you're not catching. So, and yes, that is a good point. It's not a flex to say we have a housekeeper or a guy that comes and cuts our hair or a chef. It's not. It's not at all. I used to think like that. I used to
Right.
think that people that had those were just super rich and super in a place that I'm not. And when you actually start to look into these options, they're not making you poor. You don't need to take out a second mortgage to afford to have a housekeeper or a chef or a mobile barber. Those are occupations that those people do. It's a service that they provide. So not only are you buying back your time, you're supporting someone else who has a vision and wants to grow, which is a really good feeling. People don't like, I like to support people who are grinders and who are working hard towards their own vision because it makes me feel good and it creates a synergy. People support me, I want to support others. So if I am, my housekeeper, for instance, like she hustles. I reach out to her and say, "Hey, what's your schedule like next week?" She's like, 9 to 9:30 on this date. Boom, put it in my calendar. I can be in here working while she's out there cleaning. Everything like that creates an efficiency model in my brain of like, wow, my house is going to be clean the next time I come out of this office. If I had to do that myself, and I did it one time so I could see how many hours it took me 4 hours to do what she does. She did it in probably 90 minutes and she did a way better job too. So that $120 plus I tip her is easily for me to give her because I would have had, you think, and you taught me this actually recently where we take your yearly income or what your income goal is, reverse engineer that to figure out what that comes down to hourly to figure out what 1 hour of your time is worth. And that's how you can justify these expenses because you're buying back your time to then potentially earn more money depending on what industry you're in or however your schedule works. But it's a great way to look at things. And it again, all this is to provide value for people who are high performers or who want to be high performers. It's not a flex. I don't think I'm cool because I have a housekeeper. You don't think you're cool because you're getting in a mobile barber van. It's literally designed for efficiency and to, like you said, buy back time and do more of the things you want to do.
Yeah. No, you're right, man. I know that we both agree on that. And it's important that we share what our mindset is with this as well, the way we think, because it is differently. I wouldn't say that we are the top high performers out there, right? We will never be there because in our minds we will never be perfect. That's good. We're continuing to always chase that. But I think that it's very important to share these things because a lot of times you might not have heard of these opinions or heard what we're doing. So I think it could affect a lot of lives. Now, another thing that just came to my mind while we were talking about all this, one thing that I have changed, which is pretty much changed my life, stop being a yes man and saying yes to everything. So I run multiple businesses now and I don't have time to just please everybody. I don't I don't even have the calendar available for that. So being able to pick and choose who you can say yes and no to, or maybe hey, that's not a good idea. So my main focuses are always my family and our companies and employees as well. So that's what I always look to first, and then also the big business decisions and where that can put us forward in the future. A lot of times, people are just people pleasers, and they're like, "Yeah, I can do that. Sure, I can do that. Yeah, whatever," and it just fills in all those voids, all where the free time could be, or messes up other plans that you have. You have to figure out how to say no to specific people and can't just try and people please everybody. You have to be selfish and think about yourself a lot of these times.
Yeah. And that's, again, it's a game of improvise, adapt, and overcome. Pivoting as because I'm also a yes person. I want to help as many people as I can. But if that starts to drain your cup too much, then the energy and patience that you have for the people that you're helping dwindles. And then your quality diminishes because you're saying yes to so much. You will find, and I'm sure you can agree on this, that you'll catch waves of momentum throughout your life where a lot of good things will be happening. That creates synergy. That means more opportunities will be available to you. It is a skill that you learn over time to understand what opportunities are beneficial to say yes to and what opportunities are things you should say no to, even though they might sound good and enticing on paper and when you first hear them. If you have an impulsive mindset and jump on every single thing that comes your way, you're going to be overloaded. You're going to hit a breaking point. You're going to hit a plateau, and then you're going to perceive that as burnout. But really, you just needed to exhibit some discipline and say no to certain things, or say, "Hey, I like the idea. This isn't a good time for me right now. Can we revisit this in a few months?" And that's something that I don't sit here saying that I have that figured out, because I've just had this talk with myself over the weekend. Like, I'm saying yes to too many things right now. I love a long work day, but 7 long work days in a row, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, like that does take a toll over time. And then the quality of the services that you provide diminishes. So you got to constantly be looking inward and figuring out, am I overstretched? Am I overextended? The people that we're talking to and the people that we work with, people that mentor us in certain ways, none of these people are lazy. None of us are lazy individuals. If anything, we have to slow ourselves down and not work all the time. But the way you do that is to stop saying yes to everything, and saying yes to the things that make the most sense. And it's a hard skill. I'm not going to sit here and say it's easy, because my natural innate desire is to help when someone reaches out for help. But you got to protect your time.
And I know we had a conversation, we had multiple where I'm like, "Hey, how you doing? Temperature check." I'm good. Let's bring on more. And the reason why I do that is because I've been there. I've
Yeah,
been doing it forever, right? I've ran myself in the ground multiple times. And I just want to look out for you and everybody else as well, to make sure that we do temperature checks, and you're not taking on too much and saying yes because that's what you're doing. Like, "Oh, I'm good still. I believe you. Absolutely. You're awesome at your job." Or you're like, "I'm going to take on more. I'm going to take on more." And I'm like, "I know what's going to happen. It's going to happen soon." But that's why we have to look out for each other at the same time.
yeah, we want to catch those plateaus before they come, rather than running head first into it at 100 miles an hour, and then everything falls apart, and then you got to put everything back piece to piece, or put everything back together piece by piece.
Yeah.
Uh, on
That's
the
what, like,
top,
it circles back around to what we were talking about earlier with, like, a decade ago. It was all about hard work, right? That's what we've been taught. So it was instilled in our brains, just work hard, 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 hard. But no, I mean, we could put in other tools. We can hire more people. We can do other things to make sure that we are not running ourselves into the ground.
absolutely. And I think that ties into leadership, because both of us are leaders in our own ways. I mean, if anything, we are leaders for each other, which I think is a really cool dynamic as part of our friendship, brotherhood, all that. One thing I will stand on the hill of is, if you have low energy day to day, you're a poor leader. And if you're a leader, or you're in a role where people look up to you and you delegate tasks to them, or you're the leader of a company, the boss of a company, whatever label you want, as that leader, you have a responsibility not to ignore your health. So a lot of the things we're talking about apply to you, making sure you're getting routine hormone panels done to see where things are at, and addressing anything that needs to be addressed. How do you think that plays into your life as a leader?
Well, leading by example, doing what I say, right? Doing what we do every single day, what we're passionate about. Um, I've been in roles like this before, but not to this extent. And I'm very passionate about everybody that we work with, right? So I just want to make sure that everybody's taking care of themselves. I am somewhat passionate to a fault as well. Like, if somebody messes with one of our employees, that's what fires me up. I don't really get mad that often, but if you f with one of our employees, I'm not going to hold back. I'm just kidding. I hold back now. It's just so I just really genuinely care about everybody, so I make sure that I'm there as well, because I'm leading our company and I'm leading our family, and then leading myself. To be honest, man, like, I want to do more. I want to bring more to everybody around us as well, and just continuously get better. In the last in the last 2 years, I think I've seen more growth than I ever have with myself. And it's because, one, I got rid of so many people around me, and two, brought in a limited amount of people and made my circle so much smaller.
Yeah, I think that's key. You got to vet your circle. You got to vet your energy. Not only just people, but I mean, your phone. You know, when you're in a positions like we are, your phone, the apps you have, the things, the apps you're on, and how much time you're spending on them, what you're consuming, that plays a role. You need to vet that energy, your home, your space, the atmosphere that you're in. It
Yeah.
has to be positive environment. You know, this office was designed so I could be in here 12, 13, 14 hours a day if needed and not feel like I'm trapped or have that stale energy. It's energy is such a pivotal thing when we talk about high performance and pursuing greatness. And I think you have to really look inward to figure. I think it's a spiritual thing, honestly, and not to go into too deep of a rabbit hole on that, but for me it's been a spiritual awakening, spiritual enlightenment, however you want to look at it. But it's really opened my eyes to I have to constantly be looking inward at myself and my habits and the areas that I'm disciplined in and the areas that I need more discipline in order to be an effective leader day in and day out. Because if you are a leader and you've been blessed with that responsibility, you don't get days off from leading. You have that's a 24/7 job. It does your business might not operate 7 days of the week, but if you're the leader, your mind operates around that business 7 days of the week. And I think putting in systems that are going to allow you to be effective and have patience, to have empathy, to have, you know, an aura about you that screams, I want to follow that person, or I trust in that person, or I believe in that person. You know, a big reason I came on board with this clinic had nothing to do with peptides and hormones or anything like that. I love that space and I'm knowledgeable in it, and I'm passionate about learning more and helping people through that avenue. But the biggest reason I came on was because of my relationship with you and because of how much I believe in you as a leader and what I've seen you accomplish. And that is what people see when they want to do business work with you, or, you know, in my case, they want to hire me as a coach. People see what you're about. And if you're not about it, you're going to get it's going to show at some point or another. You can only fake it until you make it for so long. If you're not about what you say you're about through your actions and through how you carry yourself, you're going to be, you know, frauds get outed at some point. And the way to be about what you say you're about is your systems, your discipline, and constantly having enough humility to look inward and say, I'm not doing a good job. You know, last week my sleep was poor for my standards and I knew it. And this weekend it was like, all right, recalibrate. Sleep has to get back on check. Hard stops, getting in bed at this time, doing my pre-bed routine, whatever the case is. But you got to be able to call yourself out and have the humility to do that. And you got to have people around you that will call you out. I think that's really important. You can't have a ton of yes men in your life. That will drain you and it will keep you in place a lot more than it will help you.
Yeah. I appreciate that, man. I think, I think our leadership here, the way that I like to do things is a lot different than leaders in the past. I lead with a lot of taking responsibility for everything so that we can all do better together. If something happens, I always put it on me because I know that I could have done better to either train or communicate something differently. I don't like to lead with any type of control. I can't stand that. I want to empower everybody around us to rise together. And I know that's kind of cliche, but just been in positions where there were scared tactics used from a leadership standpoint. And yeah, it worked for a while. Everybody was terrified and they performed because somebody had to crack a whip to make sure that people were working. But that's not a way to live life. I want everybody to be happy and enjoy what they're doing. We're passionate about what we do, and I want everybody to be happy to show up at work every day too. And again, I like to see everybody grow. We have a big goal at the end of our company. You know, I don't think it'll ever end, but you know, in a couple of years, we'll be able to do what we said we were going to accomplish, and I firmly believe that. And I think that, again, we have created something very special here in just a year.
Very. And I think to round all this out and to bring this thing home, the goal of everything that we're doing and everything that we've talked about is not to become dependent on any one thing. It's to build a system and systems that are going to support who we are trying to become as individuals, but also to support what we're trying to build.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm still working every day to figure out those systems too. I will never tell
Every
you I know it all. So I know that you're the same way and we work together. And I think another thing that we do very well is listen to others and get their opinions on things. Now, we're we're not going to pretend like we know how to do all of this. I'm not going to do that either. So during all this, we're learning about systems. We're learning about CRMs. We're learning about how to do things more efficiently, how to buy back our time. There's a lot. The whole thing is a learning lesson, and I think that's what is the most fun about all this as well. Constantly learning, constantly improving, sharing it as a team, and all kind of coming together as that team to accomplish the same goals.
Absolutely. And for anyone listening that resonates with how we operate, maybe is pursuing greatness in their own field, their own industry, their own way, if you want to take on more from a business perspective, you're going to have to build a body spiritually, mentally, and physically that is capable of handling that load. And that's where, some of the things I recommend right off the rip: get your hormones and blood work done. There are countless people we talk to every single day who are age 40, age 45, age 38, whatever the case is. They've never had it checked. You're doing yourself a disservice by not having that baseline because it's rapidly changing. It's going to evolve. If you're getting it checked, you can get ahead of some of the issues that we see come up for certain people. You can get ahead of it and you can catch it in advance, and then you can not have to hit a wall and feel like you're at rock bottom and build all the way up. So get the hormones and the blood work done. From there are tools in the toolbox. I never push peptides or hormones on people. I just make recommendations based off what I think will allow someone to achieve the goals they've expressed to me. Because if I'm using all of these things in various ways for my goals, and I know they're helping me and they're helping me be more efficient, then I know they're going to help you too. But you have to have an open mind to trying things and utilizing the tools in the toolbox. That's how I like to look at it: is everything is a tool in the toolbox. Doesn't mean everyone needs retatrutide or DSIP or hormones or this or that. No, because it might not, your individual case might be different, but you might be someone that would benefit from it. Now, when we look at what we see across the board, more people who are really into performance and are trying to do more and have big, scary goals, they do benefit, and there's a reason why. But you can't really know until you take the first step and get a proper hormone panel and a proper blood work, and then have someone break it down for you in a way that you can understand, not in a way that's a bunch of scientific big words that is just going to fly over your head and you're going to think it doesn't matter. But the body that you're in, the vessel that you're in, has to be capable of carrying the load that is necessary to achieve greatness in your own way.
It's important to be proactive rather than reactive. So when all this stuff hits the fan, you could prevent it and live a much better life.
Absolutely. And with that, this is Greatness in Motion. I'm Tommy Stiles for Jesse Kessler. We'll talk to you next time.